Very good afternoon to all of you, and good to see you all. I can't see much of you though. But anyway, it's wonderful to be here, first of all. And for those of you who love nature and wildlife, a job like mine is I think, one of the best jobs in the world. So basically, I'll be telling you something about the wildlife and how we conserve it, what are the challenges, what are the issues about it. And in the process, I'll also try and tell you something that you can take home about my experiences, what I learned from doing this or how I went about doing this, and I hope that that will be a little bit beneficial for you. So let's start. You'll see a lot of pictures here. And for me, visiting a forest area and watching wildlife and photographing them is almost like you're unwinding, you're getting yourself recharged. And I wish, I'm sure most of you would have been visiting these areas of natural beauty. There's another very interesting incident that happened. I bought a new car, and obviously the first thing that I have to do is to take it to some national park. So I was posted in Lucknow then, and the closest was Dudhwa. So picked up the vehicle at 7 o'clock in the evening. Next day morning, off to Dudhwa with another colleague and his family. My wife was there. We were newly married then. So we were sitting in the evening in one of the rest house, and the deputy director of Dudhwa Tiger Reserve was a batchmate of mine, and he had come to pay us a courtesy visit. And we were having tea, and suddenly somebody said, "Oh, there's a tiger very nearby." I ran inside to get my camera, and by the time I came out, I just realized that everybody got into the deputy director's jeep and they left. So what I did is not to be left behind. I immediately took my car and went after that. So there was a turn that was going inside the forest, and I saw that the jeep was waiting. I said, "Very nice, they're waiting for me." So I went and parked my car behind the jeep, and obviously it's a new car, so I have to make sure it's locked. No, so I went around looking at it. It's locked from all sides, and as soon as I reached the gypsy, the door was open and somebody pulled me inside. He says that you can see the tiger; it's right there. So okay, so in India, we are a lucky country. We have lots of wildlife, lots of nice areas. And of course, as I said earlier, we are always fascinated by tigers. I wish I could have put more images of tigers in my presentation. But we have elephant, and those of you who can identify, this is a tusker. And if you ever come across a tusker which is alone, try to stay away from it as much as you can. And of course, we have the only surviving population of Asiatic lions in the world at one pocket in Gujarat in the Gir area. And then we have deer species. This one is of course two cheetal sparring with each other. And then the lovely sambar. So, and as usual, you can expect a male to be following females. Then we have monkey species, the primates as we call them, and a host of birds. This is a kind of a vulture. This is called a Griffon Vulture, and some of you might be knowing that we are losing vultures. We have lost almost more than 90% of the vulture population over the past few years. This one is a painted stork. I mean, let's not go into names. Birds are birds. So this is a flying bird, which should be good enough. And we have unfortunately lost some species that have gone. So as you might know, the Asiatic cheetah, it was found till the 60s, and now it's no longer found in the country. Now coming to the original topic, as she told you that I worked in the National Chambal Wildlife Sanctuary. This was based in Agra, whereas this sanctuary is actually based in 3 states. So it is a tri-state sanctuary in the states of Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Uttar Pradesh, and I was looking after the Gharial conservation in the Uttar Pradesh part of this sanctuary. And we tried to do some good work, and it will be very, very wrong for me to take credit of the work, because eventually it was done by whoever, my staff who were working in the field, and I was just kind of leading them, that's it. So a little bit about the National Sanctuary is there is a very rare bird which is called the Indian Skimmer. So if you can look at the lower part of the picture, is, can you see that this bird is skimming the surface, you know? So they would like, you know, fly and skim the surface. This is why the bird is called the Indian Skimmer. And this is recorded in large numbers and possibly the only place in the northern part of India where they are actually nesting. And it supports 8 rare turtle species out of the 26 found in the country. Anybody has been to Chambal, by the way? I can't see hands, but I'll try my best. Yeah, I can see some hands. Oh, great. You've been there. Wonderful. Very wonderful. It's a wonderful place. It's one of the places where the river is so clean that like people actually drink water out of it. The water is potable, like possibly the only river where the river is so clean. And it's a wonderful site. It's very picturesque. It supports more than 320 resident and migratory birds. And National Chambal Sanctuary is listed as an important bird area. And it's a proposed Ramsar site. Now there was a huge amount of mortality in the year 2007-2008. And almost 125, you know, there were 125 deaths of these are adult crocodiles. This is one video of actually a gharial dying. This is a very rare video. This was given to me by one journalist. So in the year 2006, the IUCN, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, they had classified it as critically endangered. Critically endangered means more endangered than the tiger itself. Like tiger is also critically endangered. But what IUCN had said that there are less than 200 breeding adults in the wild now for this particular species. This was in 2006, and in 2007 this was this kind of a mortality. So this is the kind of the challenge that you know that you have before you, is that you have to conserve a species which is on the brink of extinction. So whenever we talk about tiger conservation, it isn't that like we are talking about the conservation of the tiger as such. But once we conserve the tiger, we are conserving the habitat, we are conserving a healthy, you know, prey population for it to sustain. So we are conserving everything else. So in this case, when we talk about gharial conservation, we are conserving the gharials, not just the gharials, but also the entire habitat of the river, also all the animals that are there. So what we want to do is to take out the factors that are against it. Now this again, this is a historical video. This was for a few years back. This was the situation that was there in Chambal. So as you know, a lot of illegal mining takes place, and if you go to our areas nearby, the sand of the river, it is selling by the name of, it's called Chambal sand. It's very white sand. It's got good value. So a lot of people, they are encouraged to actually do illegal mining because it's a sanctuary, so mining is not allowed. So this is the kind of situation that was happening there. Now see, now this is just to show you the kind of challenge that is before you. Now, what you can make out from here is this is obviously an organized thing. It is not like just like somebody taking a tractor and taking out like 1 or 2 tractors for himself. But this is quite an organized business. And there are people, you see, they have their faces covered and they are with guns. So if you go and challenge them, you know, if your staff goes and challenge them, then they would open fire. So I mean, Chambal in itself is pretty notorious. And you can see like these people are there, they're just keeping a watch. They are actually on one of the mounds. It's like, you know, Tile ke upar hai ye log. So that like they have a good, you know, view from there, so they will shoot from there. Okay, now let us come to the business part. Is what was actually done. You see, now once you stop illegal mining, then you will have build-up of sand. So once you have good build-up of sand, where in areas where good build-up of sand is there, the gharials will come and then lay the eggs. So the first thing that you have to do, stop illegal mining. So then you have to take, you know, direct measures. You have to conduct raids, you have to catch tractors, you have to catch the vehicles that are taking, you have to book people, you have to send them to prison. That is one part. And the other thing that is happening there is that people are doing illegal fishing. So as I told you, this is a sanctuary, so fishing is also not allowed. But since this is a protected area, so it has got very good fish population, very good. I have another video which I did not put because of paucity of time. Otherwise, very good stocking of fishes are there. So people get tempted to, you know, fish illegally. So what is happening is, number one, they are depleting the food for the gharials because the gharials are feeding on the fishes. But more importantly, the gharials often get, you know, they get tangled in the fishing nets. So either they will drown if they are in the water for more than 40-45 minutes, then they will drown. Otherwise, when these fishermen, when they take out the net, so they don't want to damage the net, so they will just break the snout and then release the gharial, which will eventually die off because it cannot eat because its snout is broken. So after control of illegal sand mining and illegal fishing, then what you do is you protect the nest. You identify wherever the gharials have laid nests, and then you put a wire mesh over it with some staves, with long, staves, lohe ki chhade, so that the dogs and jackals cannot, dig up. And since like one nest contains about 40-45 eggs, so if a dog digs up, then he can eat all the 45 eggs. So you just put a wire mesh, and then just before the hatching takes place, you just take it out. So I will come to the final part of my lecture. This is a gharial egg that you can see, and the lessons we have learned. The first thing that like I had learned is to trust your people. So now your staff is working in the field, and if you go by the assumption is everybody is somehow involved directly or indirectly with these sand mafias or with these fishing people, then you cannot take any work from them. So the first thing that you have to do is to learn to trust people who are working with you, the people who are part of your team. So once you trust them, then you're happy to delegate them with some kind of responsibility. It's not just blind delegation. It's not just that like, you just him to do that and you forget. It's that he also knows that you are eventually watching him. He knows that well, and that should be the kind of working is that like you give him the freedom to work, and only when he really fails your expectation should question of intervention be coming. So the other thing is, this is I think very important, and I am sure like most of you are young people, and once you go up and become leaders in whatever profession you are there, so you need to have very unconditional support to your subordinates. Now, as I showed you some videos there, if you imagine like the people who are going into the field, who are actually confronting the people involved in various kind of illegal activities, they are making themselves very vulnerable. That's one thing. The second thing is that at times they need backup. There suddenly there are suddenly 100 people, and like the staff are, so they need get into trouble. So then you have to keep your mobile phone on all the time, and mobile phone on, keeping the mobile phone on doesn't mean like you just listen to acha ye problem ho gaya, acha hum dekhte hain. It actually means you have to promptly follow up if it's 2 o'clock in the night, 3 o'clock in the night, and then you have to call up some senior officer in the police department and tell him to send backup, and then you have to call up other people where you have your staff deployed, and you tell them, okay, send backup now, we need to form a team and we need to raid. So once your staff will know that like we have unconditional support from my superior, I'm telling you, they do wonders. They do wonders. I'll just go back on the video. See the photograph. I'll just draw your attention. Is once the eggs hatch, so all you can see the hatchlings. They're all about 4-5 days old, and like you'd find them just along the border of the water, on the edge of the water. So this is how they congregate. This is again a very important point that I wanted to highlight. So we had some 175 kilometers of river. This I'm talking about the length of the river in Uttar Pradesh part is 175 kilometers. This was in 2 districts, Agra and Etawah. And we had about 50 staff, 40 to be more specific. So let us assume to be 50 staff. So for every 3.5 kilometers, we have just one staff on an average. This includes boatman, this includes forest guard. So 50 staff for 175 kilometers of river. And mind you, they cannot go alone. So if they're patrolling in the night, so at least 2-3 persons minimum with guns they are doing. So that number will come down to even lesser. So at times you have to make a choice where you want to deploy your staff. So what we used to do is you have an intelligence system. See, you cannot be everywhere. So you have an intelligence system. There are people who are breaking the law, but majority of the people, they are following the law and they want the law to be upheld. So such people are giving you a call in the night. Sometimes, anytime they will give you a call, and then you're supposed to act on it. So the first thing is you don't ask names. You are only bothered with the information. Sometimes people send you on wild goose chases. You send your staff and say, okay, you find there is illegal mining, and you find there is none. So there's nothing to be dejected about, because that man who has called you, he's watching you, and he's just checking how prepared you are and how seriously you're taking all these calls. So sometimes it used to happen is that I know that like at some place illegal fishing is going on, but then I know that illegal fishing is going on at some other place at still a larger scale. So I have to deploy my staff there because I can catch more number of boats, I can catch more number of people. So even in your work, once you all become leaders, you will have to make this choice. So you have to deploy your resources pretty effectively. And giving recognition, this is very, very important, is once somebody does a good work and you recognize his work, it works wonders. So after I was transferred from Chambal, I went about a year back, and then one fellow came and he was showing us around. And then he came and said, I caught a vehicle, I was in that team that caught a vehicle which was transporting illegal fishing, and you gave us a Prashasti Patra, a certificate of appreciation. Now see, it didn't cost me any kind of money just to appreciate or recognize his effort. But even after a year, he meets me, I don't remember, but he comes and tells me that, oh, you gave me a certificate, which means that this is a life event for him. So when we have the power to reprimand, when we have the power to take disciplinary action, I think this should come first. Good work should be recognized, whether in terms of appreciation through word of mouth, whether it's appreciation through a given letter, through a certificate, by increment. I don't know how it works in your private sector, but anyway, I mean, please keep in mind that you please give recognition to good work. So, and the last slide I wanted to show you before saying thank you is when you start seeing the young, can you see the young hatchlings? Now they are about 6 months to 1 year old now. They are about 6 months old. So once you start seeing the young ones, that means that the population has grown. Because usually in the earlier days, when the river get flooded, they get washed away. So this is after the floods are over, and they're about 6 months old. So thank you very much, and I hope most of you can visit some wildlife areas. And thank you very much.